So really, I do want to apologize just for the lateness of this review and how it's a little bit, my review is a little bit later than normal. It's just one of those things where I ended up having what you would call a scheduled blackout at my house. So I didn't have any power. I didn't have any power here. So yeah, my computer was shut off for a good amount of time. But just getting right into this chapter, we learn that Wano, as it exists today, is really just a part of the country that was built atop what Wano once was or used to be, and that Wano from the past had been submerged underwater. And just looking at that diagram as to how Wano, to Wano as it exists now compared to Wano how it used to be, with how those two are sectioned off, and combining that with the knowledge that opening the borders essentially means destroying the rock face wall that protects Wano and essentially unleashing Pluton, like all of this combined together, all this information, makes me believe that in some shape or form, Wano is Pluton. It is the battleship. Like that's essentially what it feels like they're telling us, or more to the point that Wano as a country has been built atop the surface of Pluton this entire time, and that the rock face wall that's protecting the country is what's keeping like Pluton from resurfacing. So destroying the wall is what will essentially awaken Pluton, you could say. At least that's what I can assume to be the case based on the information being given in this chapter and the explanation provided by Sukiyaki. And again, it just goes to show again how fucking close Kaido actually was to succeeding. Like all he really needed to do was have Onigashima become the new capital of Wano, and he would have instantly secured Pluton's power. It's just so frightening to know that such a power is right underneath everyone's feet. Like it really is underneath Wano. But also, with the third world poneglyph now being shown to us as well, it means that, yeah, we're basically one step away from having everything come together. Like, all the mysteries about One Piece, the Void Century, it's all just a hop, skip, jumping away from being uncovered. And it is crazy to think that we are at this point where we can say this tale of One Piece is coming to a close. Still got 3 years, but you know the old saying about how time flies, and I feel that those 3 years aren't really going to mean much, frankly, with One Piece now. Like I think 3 years is gonna. I think if One Piece really is gonna end in 3 years, I think those 3 years are gonna fly by without us even knowing it. On the other end of the spectrum, though, we cut back to Momonosuke versus Ryokugyu, as we see Momo having awakened more of his dragon power by attacking Ryokugyu with his dragon breath, blowing a hole right through his tree body before Shanks arrived on the scene and immobilized Ryokugyu with his Conqueror's Haki. And I didn't mention this in my last chapter review, but it definitely needs to be said here. The fact that Ryokugyu was able to take a blast breath to the body and still be alive, not only reinforces just how strong the admirals are, but also shows that this current generation of admirals, just like the current generation of pirates, is arguably far stronger than the previous generation. Because even if you want to argue for Momonosuke's blast breath still isn't as strong now as it'll probably become more in the future with more control over it, or the obvious fact of Ryokugyu's Logia power, like just taking those factors out, like just Ryokugyu being able to get back up after that is kind of telling us just how powerful on the endurance scale these admirals are. Although, by the same token, it should be noted that it probably is thanks to Momo that Shanks was able to more easily mobilize the admiral. Because if Momo didn't do that, then I imagine Shanks would still be able to immobilize him. I don't doubt that, but I think he would have had to exert much more power in order to do so. Thanks to Momo that Shanks didn't have to exert as much power as he probably needed to. And yeah, after Shanks' declaration to Ryokugyu about being afraid of the new generation, I feel this more or less confirms for me that he's here to measure the power of Luffy and the Straw Hats. to see if they're able to truly take their journey the rest of the way, all the way to the end. Although the fact that they were unaffected by Shanks already is an indicator of how strong they've become. So it's definitely I think whatever Shanks is doing here, whatever he's got planned for like the reunion between him and Luffy, I think he's prepared for it. But also, the more I think about it, with the whole thing of them of the third row poneglyph being revealed, and now with Shanks being here, again, I think Shanks is trying to test Luffy, but I think part of that test is like I'm almost positive that the Prince Shanks has the fourth row poneglyph. I'm almost certain of that, and because he has the fourth one, I think this is also part of the reason as to why he's probably going to put Luffy and the others through the test, because he wants to make sure that they can't take that way, that they can't take things the rest of the way, like pretty much before he ends up like before he chooses to actually give Luffy maybe his rogue poneglyph but even then, obviously, I don't think he's going to let Luffy go it alone. I think Shanks in some way is going to team up with Luffy at this point. Like that's kind of the vibe I'm getting, is that Shanks is coming here in order to test Luffy, but once he's done testing him, they're going to team up in order to take it the rest of the way, in order to take on Blackbeard too. Like that's kind of the vibe I'm getting with all this. And yeah, let's talk about Ryukyugu some more, especially what he says in this chapter for a minute, because he openly admits that Kaido's presence on Wano actually had this sort of indirect effect of actually protecting it, which is, in a way, does shine a very interesting light on the whole idea of just what the purpose of the Yonko are, and how these islands that they have under their banner, that they're the Protectorate Islands, really are being protected from outside threats, even if the Yonko themselves use and abuse that power themselves. And like this isn't anything new. We have seen like examples of of how this works after Whitebeard died, but it really does show that the Yonko are considered part of the four powers because of how that power the power they exert over islands can affect how the flow of how they're protected from pirates. Like a lot of these islands are probably islands the world's government doesn't bother with because they're being protected by the Yonko. But once the Yonko is defeated, yeah, they're not exactly protected anymore. They don't have that protection. So in this case, now that Kaido is gone, if Wano is wanting to defend themselves, then they really have to commit to the idea of wanting to defend themselves. And Momonosuke has to be 100% behind the idea of opening the border. Consequences be damned. Because if not, then at that point, what Ryukyugu said is true, that Wano will just get crushed underfoot for the sake of the power they covet, and any other possible reasoning, like to enslave some of the people. And while this was definitely a first step towards Momo realizing that, he still does have to grow stronger himself in order to actually protect Wano the way he wants to. And what happened in this fight against Ryukyugu is definitely a start to show Wano is capable of doing just that. Like Momonosuke wanted to show that Wano is capable of doing that, and wanted to show it through the battle, his battle against the Admiral, which is, I think, also why Momo also forbade Yamato from fighting, or helping out, because although she did help just as much as everyone else, and has proven her loyalty to Wano, but when you look at it from Ryukyugu's definitions and his perspective, Yamato is an ally at best, but not actually like part of Wano, like an actual an actual person who has fought and died beside the samurai of Wano. She's just an ally, a pirate ally at best, and so in that definition, it would have, if Yamato had fought, it would have proven Ryukugi right, and in some ways, this is all the more reason I feel I don't want Yamato joining Luffy's crew, because it feels Yamato just has so much more value in staying on Wano and working alongside Momonosuke. So, like, yeah, as cool as it would be for her to join the crew, I think just her being on Wano has more importance, honestly. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, @Control. Be sure to notification bell, the subscribe button, and just hit the ring, guys. Dark Knight, signing off. Later, everyone.